Welcome to the Scaling Tech Podcast, the podcast for growing engineering teams. As always, this episode is brought to you by AgilityFeet.com, providers of technical staffing and software development services in Latin America for clients globally. All right, I'm here in Mexico City doing recordings around AI engineering for the Scaling Tech Podcast. And when people talk about AI engineering, building AI applications, we tend to be very Silicon Valley focused in that conversation, which is a shame because it misses out on a lot. In Latin America in general, we have a tremendous amount of engineering talent and growing adoption of AI. And Mexico City is an interesting place to see kind of what's happening in that. This interview is part of a series I recorded in Mexico City in early 2026. I'm sharing each conversation here in full on YouTube, and they'll also be featured in an upcoming Scaling Tech Podcast episode, where I'll tie together the key lessons and themes. If you enjoy these conversations, make sure to subscribe to the Scaling Tech Podcast so you don't miss the full episode when it drops. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, LinkedIn, and at scalingtechpod.com. I'm Arin Sime from the Scaling Tech Podcast here at an AI Expo in Mexico City, and I'm speaking now with Andrés del Cos, founder of EscalaMiNegocio, one of the speakers today. You gave a really interesting talk today. Appreciate it. But let's start. Andrés, tell me a little bit about what EscalaMiNegocio does and who you usually work with.
Of course, EscalaMiNegocio started upon thinking about small and medium enterprises and how they can implement AI in their day-to-day, right? The big challenge today is that people think about AI just as a search, but actually AI can go into their own processes and be able to improve the results, right? But nobody really knows how to do that, and even less in small and medium enterprises. So that's why EscalaMiNegocio focuses on digital strategy, digital employees, automation between all the tools that every company has, and training. Those are the four big pillars of EscalaMiNegocio for small and medium enterprise.
Well, that makes sense because we tend to try and use new technology in the way that we're used to using old technology.
Exactly.
So we think about it as a search engine when it's capable of much more than that. So most of your clients, as you said, is kind of small and medium enterprises. What are they interested, or why, or what makes them interested in AI right now? What brings them to realize that they need this training?
I think most of the use cases that people are talking to me about is to save time. Like all these manual processes, we all know CRMs, we all know ERPs. These are tasks that actually take a lot of time to actually put in the system, and it's a low value added task. So that's one of the parts that clients are talking to me about, and how to solve this without them actually getting into the system themselves.
Yeah.
And this works much more because imagine a digital employee doing all this. They can put more information into the system, they can add more data, and they can get a better feedback and better improvements in their future.
Yeah.
So that's one of the big parts. But there's also other clients that are talking to me about how can I automate and digitalize everything in my company. And one of those things is how can I digitize, for example, the process to keep customers engaged in, for example, a university. Mm-hmm. So how can I get students to stay with me? And that's a very interesting project that we're running today. So those are the two main kind of areas they're talking about.
Perfect. So they think a lot about cost efficiency and maybe cost reduction initially, but also like the second one sounds like getting a little more towards retention. How do we add value through things like improving the student experience in that example?
Exactly. How to automate communications with them, how to automate red flags, all that type of things without actually having someone looking at the data.
Right.
You would need an army of people to look at the data.
Right, exactly. And that's the Escala part of EscalaMiNegocio to help them scale. So you mentioned digital employee management, and I think that's a very interesting term that people are still kind of learning about. So, what does that mean? What do you see as the future of digital employees for small and medium enterprises?
So we're trying to figure out, it's not only us, but everybody's trying to figure out what a digital employee is and how to manage them. So there's a lot of trains of thought with this is, am I going to be the one that manages them? Am I going to have an area that is only digital employee manager? Is each area going to have their own digital employees and they're going to take care of them? So this is a bit, let's say, new to everybody. And imagine for small and medium enterprises, this is like a complete different concept that they don't even know what's going on, right? But from my point of view, I think there should be kind of a digital employee manager, which would take care about all the kind of like the error logging, the data entry, the structure of how the digital employee works, but also improvements month over month, right? So it's not kind of like a digital employee is generated, it's designed, it's implemented, and that's the version you're going to live with. Of course not. One phrase I say a lot is that the first version is never the best version.
Right.
So you need to continue iterating on this digital employee. So you will need someone there. How is this structure going to be? I think it will depend on one, the tasks the digital employee will be doing, and on the client on how they want to structure their own kind of organization, right? But I think that it's still too early to say, but that's what my thoughts are at this moment.
Well, that makes sense. And as you said, the first version, will never be the best version, right? But but as definitely with things like AI, that's a common bit of advice I hear is that it's important that we get that first version out there so we can learn from it, right?
Exactly.
So, but that's maybe maybe that's a little bit too focused on the technology of it. So I wanted to ask you kind of a little bit about the human engine of AI that your talk was about. And before we jump ahead maybe to the technological implementation, what other things do businesses need to have in place first in order to do an AI transformation effectively?
Of course, yeah. On my talk, I was talking about leadership. So leadership has to have the ambition to actually move forward with digital transformations. And this ambition is not only about let's do a digital transformation, let's add AI, but be deeply involved in the initiatives and be deeply involved in the follow-up of all these initiatives. Because when employees see that their own director, their founder is really involved in these projects, they also feel more sure that this is going to be a success. So that's one part. And I think we could talk about the five, but I'll talk about the two most important.
Okay.
And I think the second one would be on the data part. So imagine having an organization of, 50, 100 people, but nobody is data-centric or data-obsessed. You really need to have these people know and understand that data is kind of like the central nervous system of the company in the future. So the example I gave in the talk was there's a salesperson that gets info from the customer and says, hey, do you have X product? And this salesperson, how is he or she going to put that information into the system and tell the system that, hey, we don't have this product. Maybe we need this product. How many do we want? Because if we don't get people really understanding that data is super important, that point of data is going to be lost forever. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be missing out on a lot of opportunities to improve revenues.
Yeah, exactly. Very good. So let's talk a little bit about like AI adoption in Mexico. So since you have an opportunity to see across a lot of businesses in your work, I'm curious what your experience is or your impression is of how businesses in Mexico feel about AI. Are they eager to adopt it? Are they excited about it? Are they nervous about it? Kind of what are the different sorts of reactions you see?
At least I think I've been lucky with the people I've been talking to, or maybe I'm attracting this kind of energy from right? Founders or directors. But inside their teams, you can see different levels of digital readiness, we can say. No? For example, I was talking to a very traditional kind of industry, which is the cardboard industry, and they didn't even have office licenses. Everybody had their Excels everywhere. So they are at a moment where, okay, they have to first solve that before going into an AI solution.
Right.
Then you have the type of people that say, hey, we have a system, but the system was not made thinking on AI, in connectiveness, on data structure, on ease of use, ease of access. And now now at this moment, I'm helping them change their system so they can have a API-ready system that AI can connect and use that data to actually use the data. Because right now they have to go manually, and they take 1 week to take out one type of KPI, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the most advanced, which are, hey, I have data, have everything. Now what do I do? So those are like kind of the three type of founders, directors that I have encountered up till now. And it's not that each one is bad or wrong or good. It's just they're in different stages of their own business.
Sure.
Their own business is working and being profitable. Is just how can we make it better?
Right.
I mean, one of the main things with founders and owners, it's not that, hey, you're doing everything bad. Of course not.
Right.
A good business, it's giving you profit. How can we make it better for you, for your employees, for your customers?
Right.
That's part of the, let's say, the value added from EscalaMiNegocio to them.
That makes sense. Yeah, it makes me think how a lot, with any type of organizational change, whether it's a digital transformation or an AI transformation, that you have to sort of look at the different steps in the process, and you could say take one step and put AI in there and really over optimize it, but if the rest of the steps in the process are so really inefficient, your overall throughput, your overall value created may not be as impressive a gain as you want, right? So having someone who can kind of look at all those different steps is important for sure. Let's drill down on that a little bit more and talk, tell me a little bit more about what kind of partners businesses need in order to implement AI.
At this moment, as I was saying, owners know their business, they know their operation, and they have to get occupied into managing the business, right? So I think there's two types of things of partners that they need, right? One would be a partner that only does some type of consulting and guides them through, and they can do all this in-house.
Yeah.
Which these type of companies are the more on the medium, bigger side of things, because they have money and they have time to invest in innovation and invest in an area that actually can do all this type of stuff, which will take time.
Yeah.
And there's those which are smaller, which actually they don't have the budget to actually do an area and have one person actually looking at this digital transformation, AI every day. Because even me, that I am focused on AI, every week you get something new. So it's going to be impossible, right? So these are the two types of partners that they should be thinking, right? The more the consulting guidance part that actually is really on top of things, and then the implementation partner that actually can do all the implementation, the strategy jointly with you without having to get out of the business operation.
Perfect. Yeah, and so that could be a strategy-focused implementation partner, a technical implementation partner, a data partner, exactly.
Depending on what is lacking on each business, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you don't have the data, but you have the processes.
Right.
Or maybe you have the processes, but not the data. So that's part of the, let's say, initial diagnostic part of what we do at the EscalaMiNegocio, and from there we take it on.
Perfect. A couple more questions here. So I'm curious, in your own work, personally, being an early adopter, I'm sure, of AI, how are you using AI in your daily work?
So I'm not, let's say, I'm not a coder or anything, but I've found a lot of success or satisfaction working with the tools like Cloud Code, Codex, ChatGPT Codex, and all this that help you code without being a coder.
Right.
So that part helps me a lot on really doing fast prototyping, doing my own website, doing logic steps, connecting between tools. And on that part, it helps me a lot to not feel kind of like constrained on what I can do. And I think that's something that AI is going to help a lot of people, because now software is going to be so personalizable.
Yeah.
And AI is going to help people do things as they want them to be done, not the other way around, to be constrained about the software.
Right.
And the other part is more on the diagnostic side, which now I can get much better information from my clients and getting all the transcripts and everything, working better with AI as a partner that helps me really analyze the stuff and then present a much better plan to the customer.
Fantastic. A lot of our viewers for this may be companies who are looking to invest in Mexico, invest in LATAM in general, to grow their own AI engineering teams. What are your impressions of kind of the level of AI adoption here and the talent available?
I think there's a subset of people that actually really know about AI. There's a lot of small startups and small companies that even in Mexico City, in Monterrey, Guadalajara, which are kind of the hubs for tech companies that actually are doing really interesting stuff in their own products and adding AI into their own products. Even I read the other day in LinkedIn, some founder said, I talked with the CTO and said, let's change everything with the new coding paradigm of AI. And they're changing everything, and they've grown so much, right? So this subset, I think it's people that are really proactive, really curious. But the other side, I think there's still a lot of talent in software engineering, but probably in college and everything, they have to let them be more open about using AI in their university, right?
Sure.
Because although they should be using it, they also should be learning about how to do stuff.
Right.
But I don't know if universities are adapting as fast as the AI is being developed.
I think that's a problem globally for sure in education, right? How do you make sure that we're using AI appropriately at the university level so we're learning, but also making sure that we're preparing people for the workforce where they are going to use it? Exactly. So they need to already be comfortable with it. All right, my last question for you. What's one AI myth that you hear a lot that you have to dispel from people that you talk to?
I think the AI myth is when I've talked to customers and said, I'm not ready for AI. Everybody's ready for AI. Everybody's ready for AI, but they're in different parts of implementing AI. Maybe I'm in the part of, I'm going to use AI for productivity. Maybe I'm going to use AI to generate my databases. Maybe I'm going to use AI to transform my whole business.
Yeah.
Everybody's ready for AI, but they kind of like, it's the human nature of being scared of something new and something different. Sure. So don't be scared. You are ready to implement AI. It's just that you need to really either have a partner to do it so, or actually be very, very involved in the projects yourself and understand how AI can actually be implemented in your company. So everybody can do AI.
Thank you so much, Andres. Really appreciate it. Where can our viewers learn more about EscalaMiNegocio?
You can go to www.escalaminegocio.com, and you can visit us in LinkedIn, Instagram, and social media.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Andres.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that conversation. This interview will be part of an upcoming Scaling Tech podcast episode on AI engineering in Mexico, along with insights from multiple other conversations I recorded there. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss it. You can find links to all our episodes, socials, and show notes at scalingtechpod.com.